Let's first talk about this assignment. 425 square feet sounds awful small.
It was really small, and what made it even trickier, it's on the top of a 6th floor walk-up apartment in the West 70s. It had 3 to 4 different little chunks of space that the owner had been renting out to college kids for years. I don't know if you've seen, there's some before and then after. It's one of these great transformation stories, but I think just by thinking about what it really takes to live efficiently in a small space, we were able to make it work. Everything does double duty. It's not just a staircase, it's a storage space. It's not just an entry, kind of console table, it's actually the kitchen counter, things like that.
As far as this idea of doing double duty, yes, so to speak, what about the cost of something like this? I mean, ideas don't necessarily cost something, but implementation might be expensive.
Absolutely, and I think that one of the things that happens in a space like this is that because we're so, what we would say, program intensive, we use every nook and cranny of the space, there's not a lot of wasted space. That's the cheap part of an apartment, but when you use every bit of the space, that's where the cost comes in. And so on a per square foot basis, it's actually high. But on the other hand, this is actually a really elegant, tailored living environment that's perfect for this client. And I will also say, every time somebody sees this, there's not a week that goes by that we don't get 2 or 3 people to say, is it for sale? Is it for sale? Will you ask them if it's for sale, even after we tell them what it cost?
Well, I mean, are you able then to use some of the space-saving ideas and maybe license them or even reproduce them on a larger scale for other types of installations?
Well, this is what's happening throughout the country, is that micro-dwelling units are trending big. We're seeing this in New York, Boston, Seattle, Denver, Austin, Texas, where we have another office, is that there's just such a demand for small spaces. I really think that the less is more dictum is being played out now in a major way by singles all across the country. 33% of New York households are single-person households. 35% in Boston, over 45% in Washington, D.C. So again, what we're seeing in the housing market is a mismatch between available units and the people that want to live in them. So again, this is why the micro loft project, there's a demonstration project that's being built right now in New York City on East 27th Street, came in during the Bloomberg administration. I got to plug for Bloomberg, not you. Is that this is actually an amazing thing that's happening, but actually New York is behind the trend. This is already in place in Seattle, it's already in place in San Francisco, already in place in Austin.
Tell us about, you mentioned housing. I want you to give a little detail about your zero house, your zero project that you've actually brought with a model of. And I wonder if you can describe things like the cost and what's it designed to do.
Right. I'll come back just for a second. So the Manhattan Micro Loft came in just under $950 a square foot, which is really high for New York City. But again, it's because it was so space intensive. That's 425 square feet. The zero house is another concept of kind of small dwelling or micro dwelling unit that our company developed, and that's 650 square feet, but it's actually a freestanding structure that can actually be entirely off the grid. It's solar powered, it collects its own water, and it processes its own waste. It's modular construction. So at $350,000, that's a little less than $450 a square foot, but it's plug and play. Like you buy a zero house, you install it, it's ready to go. And again, it doesn't, that's fully loaded. And the price goes down if you want to do a grid or intertie to the electrical grid. It comes down if you have a different idea about kind of solar power, waste management, things like that. So,
what about the actual manufacture of all of the components that go into this? Is that already ramped up? Is that ready to go and accept demand?
What's great about it, we're at zerohouse.net. It's actually an off-the-shelf product. We're open source with Zero House. We actually really believe in sustainability and the fact that people should live kind of more in tune with the environment and do more with less. So in fact, it's all off-the-shelf products. It's available on our website. Other people could go out and actually build themselves a zero house too. This is how we're just committed in this way as environmentalists too. What's happening though in the bigger frame, and we're working with developers, is that these projects are, the Micro Loft as well as the Zero House are standalone projects, but the development community is hungry for this. So we've been talking to 2 different developers in 2 different cities to actually look at this as a format. Could we get a Micro Loft format for multiple dwellings? What does that look like? Development community is absolutely all over this. In the Zero House, because it also has the energy and environmental overlay, that actually is more efficient the more units you get together. So we're talking to other developers about that, about actually grouping these and ganging these together.
keep
works.
us up to date on the ongoing project.
Microloft and Zero House.